Had all the old people.
Really? I didn't know.
The old people.
That's nice.
It's-
Yeah, yeah, it is.
Okay, everyone, if we can find our seats, silence our cell phones, close the side and back doors, I greatly appreciate it. Again, can we find our seats, silence our cell phones? We're about to get started. Okay, good evening, everyone. We are on the record. Today is Wednesday, the 11th day of December in the year 2024. This is a regular meeting of the Jersey City Municipal Council. We had it scheduled 6 p.m. start. The clock on my cell phone is showing 6:17 p.m. May we have a roll call for the commencement of this meeting, Councilperson Ridley?
Yeah.
And our birthday girl, Councilwoman Prinzary.
Yeah.
Happy
She's
52nd.
probably going to be a little upset that I said that. But
Motion,
we are going to
Councilman
sing to her.
Gilmore.
I just don't know when we're going to do that. Okay, Councilperson Baggiano,
Yeah.
Councilperson Saleh,
Here.
Councilperson Solomon.
Here.
Councilperson Gilmore,
Present.
Councilperson DeGise.
Here.
Councilperson Rivera will not be present for tonight's meeting. He's attending to his wife who had some serious surgery done, so he has to be honey to-do list. So he is going to be home taking care of his beautiful wife. And now, last but not least, Council President Waterman.
Yeah.
We have 8 council members in attendance at 6:17 p.m. Can we kindly rise for a moment of silence, please?
Bishop, Scotland, Brown, Bailey. Janice Adams. Darnell Carr. Veronica. Brad Cunningham. Deshaun Bell. Lamar McKnight. Darrell McKnight. Vitel. Jamal Jeter.
Public for which it stands, one nation, God, visible, justice for. God bless all of their families. On behalf of Council President Waterman and members of the Municipal Council, in accordance with New Jersey Public Laws of 1975, Chapter 231, the Open Public Meetings Act, also known as the Sunshine Law, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by the posting on the bulletin board of the first floor of City Hall, the annual notice, which is the schedule of meetings and caucuses of the Municipal Council for the calendar year 2024, and filed in the office of the City Clerk on Thursday, November 30th, 2023. In addition, at its time of its preparation, the agenda of this meeting was similarly disseminated on Friday, December 6th, 2024 at 3:22 p.m. to the mayor, municipal council, business administrator, corporation council, and the local newspapers, and posted on the city's website so I can certify as to our total compliance with the Sunshine Law. Council members, as discussed at the caucus, before we move on to our regular agenda, there are 2 items that need to be added to the agenda as discussed at the caucus. First item is 10.33, Resolution 24-902, which is a resolution in support of the collective bargaining rights of all healthcare workers in Jersey City and all of Hudson County, and calling upon Hudson County Hospital LLC to recognize the labor unions representing the employees of all hospitals they currently own and/or operate, and they may own or operate in the future. And the second item is item 10.34, Resolution 24-903, is a resolution to cancel taxes on Block 6004, Lot 1.03, and Block 6005, Lot 13.01, also known as Cole Street Park, due to an erroneous assessment. Council members, I need a motion to add items 10.33 and 10.34 to the agenda. Motion made by Council President Waterman. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by the birthday Councilperson Prinzary. On the motion to add items 10.33 and 10.34 to the agenda, Councilperson Ridley.
Aye.
Councilperson Prinzary.
Aye.
Councilperson Bajano.
Aye.
Councilperson Saleh.
I have to abstain for 1033, 1034, aye.
Okay, thank you. Councilperson Solomon.
Aye.
Councilperson Gilmore.
Aye.
Councilperson DeJeece. And Council President Waterman. Okay, item 10.33 is added to the agenda by a vote of 7-0-1, with Councilperson Saleh abstaining, and item 10.34 is added to agenda 8-0, both with Councilperson Rivera absent. Okay, on to our first reading ordinances, which is only one. Item 3.1, City Ordinance 24-107 is an ordinance amending the West Side Avenue redevelopment plan, expanding allowed uses in the Loft Residential District. Council members, I'm going to be taking the sole vote on the whole first reading ordinance. Item 3.1, Councilperson Ridley.
Aye.
Councilperson Prinzary.
Aye.
Councilperson Bajano.
Aye.
Councilperson Saleh.
Aye for introduction.
Councilperson Solomon.
Aye.
Councilperson Gilmore.
Aye.
Councilperson DeJeece. And Council President Waterman. Item 3.1 is introduced 8-0 with Councilperson Rivera absent. On to our second reading ordinances. First, second reading ordinance, item 4.1, City Ordinance 24-105 is an ordinance authorizing the City of Jersey City to execute a sublease between Provost Square Performing Arts Company, Inc. and the New Jersey Sympathy for the purpose for providing cultural enriching experiences to the Jersey City community through the arts. This is a public hearing on this ordinance. Any member of the public wishing to be heard, please come up to the podium and state your name for the record. Just give me 1 second, Phil. Okay, Philip Carrington. Go ahead, Phil.
Oh, okay. My name is Phil Carrington. I want to be very clear. I understand clearly what this ordinance is saying.
Bless you.
I have a question. I've asked the question before, and I was almost insulted by Councilman Soley. In regards to this ordinance, or law, or code, are these laws made for everybody in Jersey City? Black people as well as white people. The question could have been answered that these laws are made for everyone. But you offend me saying that, well, stick to the issue. There is a, yes, you did last time. I'm very clear. So, Lace, yes, counsel you directly, yes. And so, what I'm saying here, this is a cultural business that is being dealt with. And an ordinance is made for them. I've made questions before on the same kind of issue and got ignored. And so it is extremely important for me to answer that question, because a whole lot leads to that. What do I mean? Looking back in retrospect to 2 weeks ago, or last time I was here, I raised an issue where it appears that laws were made for other people or other organizations as
Phil,
opposed to me.
not to interrupt you, but you got to stick to the ordinance. Otherwise, you can wait for your 3 minutes and you can come up and you can discuss what you're discussing.
I'm clear. The question remains, are these laws, this or any laws, made for everybody in the city of Jersey City? I was going far afield, I'm quite sure, but the question remains, is this law and any law made for everybody in the city of Jersey City? That is the question, and that's on the issue. Please answer the question. You can say that question or answer that question on the record. You don't need anything else. You have your attorneys. It's a question of law. Are these laws made for everybody in the city of Jersey City? You have your attorneys from the word attor, meaning officer of the court. They can speak on the record. That's my question.
Okay, this is still a public hearing on city ordinance. Thank you. Still a public hearing on city ordinance 24-105. Any member of the public still wishing to be heard, please come up to the podium and state your name for the record. Motion was made by Council President Waterman. May I have a second?
Second.
To close the public hearing on city ordinance 24-105, seconded by Councilperson Saleh. On the motion, Councilperson Ridley.
Aye.
Councilperson Prinzary.
Aye.
Councilperson Baggiano.
Aye.
Councilperson Saleh.
Aye.
Councilperson Solomon.
Aye.
Councilperson Gilmore.
Aye.
Councilperson DeGise. And Council President Waterman. Motion carries 8-0 with Councilperson Rivera absent to close the public hearing on city ordinance 24-105 for final consideration and adoption of city ordinance 24-105. Councilperson Ridley.
Aye.
Councilperson Prinzary.
Aye.
Councilperson Baggiano.
Aye.
Councilperson Saleh.
Aye.
Councilperson Solomon.
Aye.
Councilperson Gilmore.
Aye.
Councilperson DeGise. And Council President Waterman. City Ordinance 24-105 is adopted 8-0 with Councilperson Rivera absent. On to our last second reading. Yes,
Before we do 4.2, I do have questions to Corporation Counsel and the Law Department.
okay.
So has, with regard to issuing this tax abatement, has the person requesting it or the entity requesting it provided all the requisite paperwork to the city?
No, Councilwoman, the tax assessor's office is still waiting on documentation.
Okay, and knowing that the current tax abatement expires in November of next year, and knowing that with the HMFA affordability controls, will they still have an opportunity to get the paperwork to the board moving forward to make sure that we maintain affordability controls?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Knowing that information, I'm gonna make a request to table 4.2 after public comment.
I second.
Well,
Rich, can they do the?
wait, let's go through with the actual ordinance first, and then we can make the motion after the public hearing.
Okay.
All right. So with that being said, item 4.2, City Ordinance 24-106 is an ordinance approving a 30-year tax exemption for the Birchwood at Fairmont Hotel, Block 16301, Lot 42, pursuant to the New Jersey Housing and Mortgage Finance Act of 1983, as amended and supplemented NJSA 55:14K-1 exec, and the rules promulgated under NJAC 5:80-1 exec. This is a public hearing on this ordinance. Any member of the public wishing to be heard, please come up to the podium and state your name for the record. Before you do so, just give me one moment so I can adjust the camera. It's only on you. Okay, and I would just ask if you can state your name and spell your name for the record for our court reporter.
My name is Joe Harkins, or Joseph Harkins. I am a resident of Jersey City. Want my address too?
No.
Okay. May I speak now?
You can.
I am Joe Harkins, 91 years old, a third generation citizen of Jersey City, and a resident of the Fairmont Hotel apartments for almost 30 years. That is the property under question. I am asking that the city council carry the proposed ordinance 24-106 for study and reconsideration for the following reasons. One, I question the justification of the 30-year pilot because this landlord has already had 30 years of tax abatement under pilot that is about to expire, and during which it has done nothing in the way of capital improvements to the property using that benefit. Even maintenance has been neglected, as is evident from the conditions of the hallway. There are apartments that had not been painted or recarpeted in 30 years. There are broken toilets, and of course, there are broken elevators. Now they want the tax money and tax abatement to do whatever they declined to do for all those years with their own money. The wording of the ordinance makes it clear that the benefit of the proposed ordinance is, quote, I'm quoting from the ordinance, make the property more attractive to investors needed to finance the project. In other words, in plain language, it's a gift. The ordinance and the narrative document intended to support the ordinance makes it clear that the landlord intends to exercise the right to remove senior residents from their apartments without compensation for the disruption or the loss of whatever personal property or expense that may have to be stored or abandoned. All this with a guarantee explicitly excluded of a comparable apartment within the property or even within Jersey City. There is no guarantee that the temporary apartment will be of comparable quality or expense or convenience. There is no stipulation as to how long this displacement may be allowed. Further, a resident who has been evicted is not guaranteed a return to the same apartment, and the document makes it plain that that is not promised. This entire scheme is in blatant violation of the letter and the intent of New Jersey law regarding eviction. Those laws clearly state 19 reasons why a judge may order evictions. None of those rules include the convenience of a landlord during renovations. In the real world, all of those disruptions are usually negotiated. Obviously, this landlord is uncomfortable with that process. I respectfully ask that the City Council carry this motion while the issues are recognized and given respect regarding the use of public money to improve the quality of private property for the benefit of investors.
Thank you, Joe.
Yes.
This is still a public hearing. And I see Philip Carrington.
Directly on the issue. I hope I'm correct. The last time that, I hope I'm correct in terms of the address. When they first got the tax abatement years ago, they had $1 million, and $1 million back 20, 30 years was a lot of money. Today is not that much money. But it had an endowment. They ran through that endowment $1 million in 20 years. And now they're back here again asking for another tax abatement. The question is, what kind of improvement and what benefit to taxpayers are we going to get out of this? Or can you give us an explanation briefly as to why another 30-year tax abatement is needed to be given to them? Them and the YMCA all had an endowment of $1 million, and they blew through it. No one can give an account for it. Question is, what is the purpose for additional 30 years tax abatement? I know you're not going to answer. Let it linger.
This is still a public hearing, and I see Gina Davison.
Gina Davison, Ginadavison. This abatement and project appears to benefit the current low-income senior residents of Fairmont Birchwood Apartments. However, I actually read Mr. Harkin's open letter in JC Times. I recommend that other folks look it up and read it as well. Asking for this ordinance to be tabled. Thank you, Councilwoman Prince Airy, for your comments as well. Until further details can be specified. Apparently, many of the existing issues in the building are not listed explicitly on the current project plans that this abatement would offset. We especially want to ensure that this project is not providing Fairmont Birchwood LLC with an avenue to rid the building of low-income housing or to increase rent prices following renovation. The plans state that there will be renovations to apartments for current residents while said residents are moved to other open apartments in the building at the cost of Fairmont Birchwood. This is very disruptive. The abatement also states that the purpose of renovations are to, quote unquote, attract tenants. Why do they need to attract tenants, new tenants, if the building is fully inhabited? Why do they need to attract tenants when there are plenty of seniors in our city in need of low-income housing? Another purpose of the abatement is to attract investors who would fund additional renovation. Why are investors needed if the project already provides adequate funding for the basic maintenance renovation that is genuinely needed? More importantly, why hasn't this maintenance already been done? There may well be reasonable answers to these questions, but until then, your constituents ask that we consider tabling this ordinance. Further, it has been requested that Council and the city open a dialogue with the current residents of Fairmont Birchwood to make sure we are putting resources in the right place and holding these real estate businesses accountable. Thank you.
Thank you. This is still a public hearing. I see Laverne. Bring the mic down to you, Laverne. You okay? All right.
You know, shame on us. I'm 76 years old. I've been fighting for tax abatement for 50 years. I sit on the affordable housing for the county of Hudson County. I used to go to Washington, D.C. for affordable housing and tax abatement stuff. We let people get out of hand with this and abuse it and use it in the wrong perspective. It's not benefiting the people that need it. This man had this for 30 years. And then this is the best he can keep this property up, not paying tax abatement. And then want another 30 years where somebody else in the city can use it and need it. I did 2 projects here. The Welby building, the Fred Martin building. We did it with grant money, tax abatement. And the buildings look up to par. It's no way that this man needed to be doing what he's doing and asking what he wants. The building should be paid off, and the building with no taxes on it, it should have been kept up. It's a disgrace. Y'all don't let this get by. Please, because there's too much on that area that needs to be upgraded. When they took the women's wine, the men's wine, all that, and we got shelters around there that need a nice building went up, and that Fairmont Avenue affordable. We need stuff like that. It's too much going on in this city right now. And it's too much homeless. I get calls every day. The web building now is the city's building. It's affordable. It's under the housing authority. We need help to do better for our people in the city. We can't let people like this take advantage. This is being taken advantage of. And it's not fair to the community, not fair to y'all. To let these people get over like that when people, 30 years, and he can't keep his apartment building up, that he's asking for another 30-year tax abatement. It's not fair to people that need this tax abatement. We got to do better. We got to watch the storefront.
Thank you. This is still a public hearing on ordinance 24-106. Any other member of the public wishing to be heard? Please come up to the podium and state your name for the record.
Okay, thank you. Mia Skanga. Am I too close? All right.
No, you're good.
I've been here since 1983, so I was here during the Schindler administration when the Fairmont Hotel, which was abandoned at that time for decades and owned by the city of Jersey City through, I guess, a tax sale. And granted, they did get low-income housing tax credits to help. I mean, it was a complete gut job. It was just, the walls and stuff. And they also got, it was a federal historic rehabilitation tax credits. But my recollection is that we were a little astounded that it cost on average $170,000 to renovate each unit. Now that's an average. There are studios to 2 bedrooms, but for the most part, they're 1 bedrooms. In 1993, 94, $170,000 was a lot of money, you know, for a 1 bedroom renovation. And I also recollect that we put in a lot of Jersey City taxpayer money into that building. And then I heard later that I think after 20 years, the title of the building went over to Ingerman, Brad Ingerman, who was a huge supporter of the Schindler administration, huge. So here we are. They got a 30-year abatement starting in 1995, which expires next year. They pay on average now $1,681 per unit per year. I take a look at rent control buildings that on average, they're mostly 100 years old, right? And they've got 100-year-old elevators and need lots of work. They pay double this, and they're not getting money from Jersey City government, whatever, to renovate. So I say to myself, enough is enough already. As other people have said, and it's in the ordinance, that Brad Ingerman-related entities have entered into an agreement of sale. It's right in the ordinance. So here we are using Jersey City taxpayers' money so that Brad Ingerman can walk away making tens of millions of dollars on this building by getting another 30-year tax abatement. Just make it a rent control building. Their assessment will be, it won't be market, but it'll be better than what we're getting now. And forget the 30-year tax abatement. They've had one, and one is enough. We can't continue this philosophy of making the developers rich and the middle class poor. And that's all because of these outrageous property tax bills in the city of Jersey City. Thank you.
Thank you. This is still a public hearing, and I see Tina.
Hey guys, yeah, I just read part of it, but I know that we definitely don't need that 30-year tax exempt. People are still talking about the French Museum, about that tax exempt. I know that right now we definitely need housing. Jerry Walker, I work for him, and we've been getting approved for the young people on the block and in our community, TRA, but we don't have enough apartments. Or the rent is 25 and 35 and 15. So to see that happen, I know then whoever is doing these 30 years taxes, they're not working in the community. They're not walking around. They don't know exactly what's going on and whatever. Well, you need to be having a meeting with them and show them around our community and let them know that this should not be approved because we still need help in our community right now. Maybe we'll get some of our corners back because right now the guys are asking for help. They are asking for an apartment because we made that safe spot right there. But now we need for y'all to do your job, do the right job, and let us grow too as a community. Stop letting these people come in here and they grow and they stay here for 10 years and take their money and pack up and leave, and we don't get to see them no more. And we still out here walking around, still asking for help, for help, for help. Please make a different decision. Let's go in a new year with a different for our community. Let's change our community. Right now, we're making history right now. Let's do something different. We don't need that 30-year taxes up. Let's go, y'all. Do something different. Thank you.
This is still a public hearing on City Ordinance 24-106. Any member of the public wishing to be heard, come on up. State your name for the record.
Kevin Weller. So I would say a few things. I only really became aware of this tonight, so I'm doing some quick research. And it's an all too familiar story. Tax abatement for 30 years, starting in around 1995. Sounds a lot like Portside Towers West and East. When our tax abatement ran out, 30 years, I got a 35.5% rent increase over $1,500 per month. So we know what happens in situations like that. One thing that's interesting that I think maybe nobody in this room even knows, we all know that there really isn't a rent control database in this city, right? But what we may not realize is there's the opposite in the city that we do have. We actually have a definitive database of all of the properties that have asked for a rent control exemption. Isn't that interesting? Guess which building is not on that list? This building. This building is very likely subject to rent control, and it has very likely always been since the beginning. And we know a lot about how to deal with rent control buildings that have been rent control since 1995. Now, of course, I'm not an attorney, but if you table this, it'll give us a chance to look into this, see if I'm right. But I'm looking at the database right now, and this building is not listed. So I think there's a very good chance that even his 6% increase he just recently received is likely illegal, and that they have additional protections if their building is in fact subject to rent control. I think we should be allowed the time to investigate. I think we can get the answer in less than a week, and we would be willing to help them for free. Thank you.
Thank you. Motion. This is still a public hearing on City Ordinance 24-106. Any member of the public still wishing to be heard, please come up to the podium and state your name for the record.
Good evening. My name is Jake Ephros, Jakeephros.
Okay, Jake.
Yeah, I think I'll just make this brief. I agree with the other speakers who are coming up here asking City Council to table this vote. I think in particular, this is important on the backs of this City Council voting to give the Kushner developers a massive tax abatement with a Pompidou vote that was just recently passed through these very halls. So I think it's really important that we have the public have some more time to understand what's going on here and have a little bit more robust discussion tonight. So agree with other folks who are speaking against an immediate passage of this, and let's table, discuss more, and have more things come to light. Thank you.
Thank you. Still a public hearing, and I see our next speaker.
Thanks, Sean. Jessica Brand.
Okay.
Just to add to what Kevin was saying, I read your op-ed, Joe, and I appreciate you sending that in. He had a section where he wrote the Fairmont claims exemption from rent control. And I heard one of the other speakers say that it had been an abandoned building. And you probably know there was a 1998 ordinance that allowed some of those buildings to be rent controlled automatically. It sounds like those conditions weren't met for this building because it was already being leased in 95 before the 98 situation happened with the abandoned building rent control. So just for clarity, I do think it's really important to say that if the landlord is asserting it's exempt and we don't have evidence that they've ever submitted proper paperwork to the city to validate that exemption, this is probably not exempt from rent control, and that confounds going forward with this ordinance. You don't get 60 years of tax abatements and sidestep rent control. Thank you.
Thank you. This is still a public hearing on City Ordinance 24-106. Any member of the public wishing to be heard, please come up to the podium and state your name for the record.
My name is Karin Van Oppen.
Okay.
I just want to quickly say something, because if I understood that correct, they're paying $1,000 per year, about $1,000 per year in taxes. That would mean per unit, that would mean that we are paying like 14 to 15 times as much. I mean, I'm just a little astonished about that number. And I'm pretty sure other people, when they hear it, will think the same. So please think about, I'm in a small shoebox as well, so it's not like I'm pretty rich or something. So please think about that when you vote about this. Thank you.
Thank you. This is still a public hearing on City Ordinance 24-106. Any member of the public still wishing to be heard, please come up to the podium and state your name for the record.
Motion.
Second.
Motion to close the public hearing on City Ordinance 24-106 was made by Council President Waterman, seconded by Councilperson Baggiano.
Yes.
On the motion to close the public hearing on City Ordinance 24-106, Councilperson Ridley.
Aye.
Councilperson Prinzary.
Aye.
Councilperson Bajano,
Aye.
Councilperson Saleh,
Aye.
Councilperson Solomon, Councilperson Gilmore,
Aye.
Councilperson DeJeece, and Council President Waterman. Motion carries 8-0 with Councilperson Rivera absent to close the public hearing on City Ordinance 24-106. Councilperson Prince Airy, would you,
I'd like to make the motion to table ordinance 24-106.
And I second.
okay. So let me just get that stated for the record. We have a motion to table City Ordinance 24-106 after the close of the public hearing was made by Councilperson Prince Airy, birthday girl, and seconded by Councilperson Bajano. On the motion to table City Ordinance 24-106 after the close of the public hearing, Councilperson Ridley,
Aye.
Councilperson Prince Airy,
Aye.
Councilperson Bajano,
Aye.
Councilperson Saleh,
Aye.
Councilperson Solomon,
Aye.
Councilperson Gilmore,
Aye.
Councilperson DeJeece, and Council President Waterman. Motion carries 8-0 with Councilperson Rivera absent to table City Ordinance 24-106 after the close of the public hearing. Keep the clapping up because you know what we're going to do right now? We're going to sing happy birthday to Councilperson Mira Prince Airy. Are we ready? We ready? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Cha cha cha.
Happy birthday, dear Council President Prince Airy. Happy birthday to you.
Is that your birthday
Thank
wish?
you, everybody. And Sean, if, yeah.
I don't know
Thank
if
you,
that was,
everyone. I appreciate it.
I don't know if that was her best birthday gift or not. Probably not.
Joe Hawkins.
Okay. All right, if we're leaving, please leave quietly. If we're staying, let's pay close attention to the agenda. I'm going to be calling the number and the first name of the individual. With that being said, our first speaker, 5.1, Laverne.
Council, I never been so proud of you to table this, what you tabled tonight. I've been out here in this city over 50 years working on stuff like this. You did a good job tonight. Keep it up. Don't let people take advantage of this city. And that's what he's trying to do. And it's not fair to bring this stuff to you guys. It's not now. This is Christmas time. People need somewhere to live. They need shelter. We don't need people taking advantage. I do stuff in this community and I see the need. I just gave out, like I told you, 500 coats, boots, turkeys. I'm getting ready to do some toys. It's not right. There's so much need in our community. Keep up the work you guys are doing, especially in a time like now when we need housing so bad. I'm trying to get developers to take old Montgomery Garden and do that over. Don't tear them brick buildings down. Redo them. We need people somewhere to live in this city. And I thank you. You all got to keep up the good work. Don't let people take advantage of our city. It's not right. And I pray that you guys have a blessed holiday. I'm going through some things, so I'm not talking that much tonight. God bless you and have a happy and blessed holiday.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. God bless, Laverne. All right, our next speaker, 5.2, Edward.
I was surprised to learn that this is the last meeting of the year because I thought that there would be one more, but there's not. So, but anyhow, there are a few things I want to say. As far as crime goes and public safety for the year, where are we on de-escalation tactics with the police and how they respond to everything that they do in this city? They come like gangsters, they come like mobsters, they come with their SWAT vehicles, millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars for their materials, and they just, usually, it ends up bad. Where are we with the de-escalation tactics for this police force Although the mayor isn't our ally, this body can still use what authority you have to bring pressure, okay? And let our public safety officials know that the community is unhappy. They're undeserving, right? And their authorities and their roles and leadership, and that's just how it is. I read recently, is it reported that this city and Hoboken, among other cities, received a passing grade, right, with this LGBTQ plus assessment. I just want to let you know that recently I was just reaching out because I identify in the spectrum. This city doesn't spend enough resources to make sure that there's a pride or that there's anything LGBTQIA in any other ward. What is going on? How I was shocked because, you know, everything is concentrated in Ward E, right? As far as business, as far as lifestyle. Where are you in F? Where are you in A? Where is investment for LGBT? Like, what? We can have a conversation about that. We should have a conversation about that because where's the representation? Lies and garbage. Okay? Also, it was very nice to see a few of our representatives out at the grand opening for Community Treasures. But the main thing is putting your money where your mouth is, okay? That organization serves people who are desperate and in need. Many of you are out of touch, and it would be the best thing you can do is to sit down with her and organizations like hers to figure out what it is that desperate people need from people like you and Andrew Washington. The Anti-Violence Coalition is moving and we're moving. I'm a part of that group. We're moving. All we need from you is support. And Happy New Year.
Our next speaker, 5.3, Tina.
Justice for Drew. Justice for Drew. Again, as E said, I want to thank all of y'all for coming to the ribbon cut, and like that really touched me. I really didn't think y'all was coming. Especially to see that my mayor wasn't there, to see that we really did something good in our community, that hurted me. And then the mayor from North called. I'm like, get the hell, what? He called us like, I can't make it, but I'm gonna send somebody. I was like, yo, that's what's up. You don't get stuff like that. And that's what I mean, as we need leaders like that. That was so dope for him to do that. I respect that. Education Gilmore, I respect you for asking me to talk at your campaign because I didn't have no $55,000 to speak. I didn't have $1,000. You took me as me for me to tell the truth what going on in our community. So I respect you for that because no one ever did that. Usually people don't do that. They look for people for a check. I don't have fun. I wanted to tell people the truth, what is going on in our community and what we doing in our community. And for you, Steve, Jerry Walker, J Dub, all of y'all to come together to give our community in Ward F a safe spot. I love that. Our community is moaning right now. I just put it for our cousin them to let them know if they need to come to our spot and moan, if anybody need any tea, if anybody need to talk, we are open to do that. And that's what we need. That's all we needed. We just needed a safe spot to let y'all know. Yeah, some of us don't know how to read. Some of us don't know how to fill out an application. Some of us didn't get educated of how to go out there and fill out for an apartment. That was me. So see, that for me to go back in my community and let them know how I live and how I'm able to come from out the woods. My bathroom was outside, yo. I used to walk to my bathroom, yo. I couldn't read or write. I came up here when I was 13. I showed them I came from the bottom, from with a councilman, now working for the commissioner. It showed you it's people out there that believe in you. So I'm running for anybody that's out there walking that community and doing the right thing, that didn't have to wait for 28 years to get the permission to get a little spot to do something different. We doing with the right one, guy. Next year, guys, y'all make sure y'all look in y'all community and who's doing the right way, so we don't have to be sitting on here on Wednesday, because y'all my family. Happy Christmas and happy holiday, because every Wednesday I'm up here doing the same thing for over and over and over. So I'm gonna say it again, y'all. Justice for Drew.
Our next speaker, 5.4, Gina.
Good evening again. Gina Davison, Ward F. Thank you all for voting correctly on Ordinance 4-2. We really appreciate your support. It's wonderful when you all come together for your residents. I would like to start this end of the year meeting by thanking the Department of Health and Human Services for a truly amazing year in transforming animal rescue and care in our city. Stacy Flanagan and her team, Paul Bellenboyer, ACO Director Mark Burns, Ms. Emily Palmer, and the rest of our friends at Jersey City Animal Care and Control have made such a big difference this year. They have collaborated and supported the work of small independent rescue organizations like mine, helping with those with boots on the ground who are out on the streets of Jersey City every day. And just this week, 21 neighborhood cats were spayed or neutered and vaccinated against rabies and distemper. 4 of those 21 were from my organization and my closest partnering organization. We were out at 7 a.m. on Saturday in that 20-something degree weather, and we appreciate the support of our friends at the ACO office. Speaking of, if anybody here needs winter shelters to help keep the cats on their block from freezing to death this season, you know where to find me. Moving on to the topic of police brutality and over-policing in Jersey City. I sent all of you a list of questions for the meeting you had today with Public Safety Director Shea. Most importantly, questions about how JCPD plans to reform their approach to mental health crisis intervention, especially after the shooting death of Andrew Washington. I'd like to use the remaining time here at the podium to get your reaction, Council President Waterman and anyone else who would like to chime in regarding these open questions about the militarization of our local police and the failure to implement Arrive Together.
We had a meeting today. I'm not going to go into details, but I'll say it was the first question that we had asked was about Arrive Together and the implementation and the response, post Andrew Washington. And the Director for Public Safety did agree to meet with NJ Together to discuss that. So that was an ask that we put forth, and he obliged. So if a formal request can be put through, and if you want to CC any of the council members to send that to the director, or send it to the council person, we'll bump it up. We can have that meeting. Oh.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Councilman Saleh. Justice for Drew.
Thank you. Our next speaker, 5.5, Karen.
Hi. In Thanksgiving week, I was on the list to speak, but I didn't get to do so because with the council having an extremely short agenda, I didn't make it through security on time. I'd like to thank Councilman Solomon and Councilwoman Prince Array for following up regarding this. And I urge you all to change the rules so that those that are present get to speak, if anything, as last person. I will continue via letter on this topic since I have only 3 minutes. When I moved to Jersey City, I lived next to Burke's Bar, behind the Tunnel Diner. For those too young or new here, that's now across from Home Depot, next to the gas station and behind the hotel. Much has changed, but what hasn't is that from that area, you still need to walk or bike to most parts of the city because there is no means of public transportation. The VIA system fills in parts of that gap, but certainly has its limitations, and it's not a 24/7 option. Having more bike lanes means having more options to get places quicker. I bike everywhere because I have been doing it since age 3 and I'm quite used to it. That said, drivers in this city tend to have no patience with bike riders, so protected bike lanes are a must. I urge you to use the grant money you have for the heights and to build more bike lanes in every ward. Even city vehicles do not accept that the streets isn't their playground. Last month, I was met with a street sweeper and its driver who thought it necessary to smash the white delineators and park sideways in the bike lane, right when I was turning into it. That's why I have a torn meniscus. I will continue later on this topic since I have not much time left. In January, we will have a new president, one who has proven in his term that he will do everything to make the lives of immigrants, especially those new to the country, miserable. I warned you about this when you passed the ordinance that includes rules for delivery people on e-bikes. Only Councilwoman Ridley seemed to understand what was at stake. I urge you to reconsider the parts of the ordinance that are of concern. I will be back in 2025. I wish to recap on 2024, because I've been here quite a few times. Justice for Drew. I would also hope that you do something for these people of the Portside building, it is, I believe, because I know them on their first names. I never met these people before. I wish you all happy holidays, but especially those who pay attention when people speak. Thank you.
Our next speaker, 5.6, Jake.
Good evening once again. My name is Jake Efros. I'm a resident in the Heights, and I'm here to support the bike lane as well. I'm a teacher at Hudson County Community College now, and almost every single day on my commute, I've biked to and from work. And the conditions are just absolutely atrocious on the roads. And so this would be a small step in helping improve the infrastructure, even bigger than a small step in improving the infrastructure for cyclists. But beyond that, I mean, it's a layup that we already have, over $500,000 in grant, or excuse me, $500,000 in grant funding to make sure that we can get this infrastructure established. And it's really important in a bigger scheme that we move away from car-reliant roads to safer streets for kids and pedestrians and cyclists, and yes, drivers too, because calmer traffic is going to impact safety for everyone, including drivers who do need to rely on their cars still. So long-term, this is going to save us, all of us residents here, headaches around limited parking, the cost of car expenses, and tragic accidents when we make steps like this bike lane would make. And it means in the longer term project too means investment in mass transit beyond bike lanes alone. And it means that mass transit that works for working people, because this is one part of a much broader puzzle that I'm really glad that Bike JC, Safer Streets, Safe Streets, and Complete Streets are all working together to put together. And lastly, I'll just say that bike lanes have demonstrated really good benefits in other cities. In Jersey City here, benefits for the small business community too. It's not going to box people out of going to those shops, but it can really benefit them as well. So that's what I want to share on the bike lanes. But with a minute left, I do want to say that my former work was with 1199 SEIU organizing healthcare workers. And so I would be remiss to not shout out my union siblings from HPIE here today who are fighting against Hudson Regional Health and their lack of commitment to recognize unions that are standing unions at CarePoint hospitals. And so, I live up the street from Christ Hospital, and it would be a disgrace if we, as a city council, did not stand to make sure that we were on the side of union workers from Christ to also Bayonne, Hoboken, Secaucus, even outside of our city. So that's what I'll say as my time is ending. As always, enforce 260, justice for Drew, and happy holidays to everyone here. Thanks.
Our next speaker, 5.7, Tony.
Hi, Tony Borelli, Vice President, Bike JC. I am here to again express my and our strong support for the aforementioned protected bike lane project in the Heights. You know, a couple of weekends ago, we, and in fact, some people in this room did something that unfortunately we did again here tonight, which is remember more people killed on our streets in traffic. That observance was the World Day of Remembrance for Victims of Traffic Violence. And as we do every year, as I've been doing for over a decade, we, Bike JC, particularly installed ghost bikes, the white bicycles, as memorials to people specifically who were killed on bikes. And one thing I noticed is we actually had a little bit of an easier time. We traveled by bike on that day, as you might imagine, but we got to use the new and newish protected bike lanes on Mallory and Duncan, and we thank Councilmember Prinzeri for her work on those projects. We got a little safer, got around a little easier. But when we got to Duncan at 440, we installed one for a young lady killed about 10 years ago there, and something felt off. Strange, I mean, more than the somber occasion. And I only later realized it was the very first time that I had ever installed a ghost bike essentially on a protected bike lane. That lane wasn't there 10 years ago when that crash happened. It's new. But a lot of us thought about that as we rode around. You're all smart people. I don't think I have to tell you what that implies to me. And I hope that you'll keep that in mind very firmly when discussing for future protected bike lanes. With the rest of my time, I do want to mention that we understand the Department of Infrastructure, which is in charge of protected bike lane projects, will be appearing here, I think on the 19th, to talk about their budget for 2025. We strongly urge you to dedicate sufficient city resources to their work. There are very few things that please people in a city more than the work of infrastructure. Sometimes paving streets and that sort of thing. Most people like that, but it just so happens that they save people's lives too all the time. I know there are a lot of things that they would like to do all over this city, not just for bikes, but for safer streets, for better streets, including for drivers. So we urge you to fund them as much as you possibly can. Thank you, and happy holidays.
Thank you. Our next speaker, 5.8, Danielle.
Good evening, Danielle D'Adamo, Ward C, and lifelong resident of Jersey City. Good evening, council members, city officials, and fellow residents. Tonight, I want to address a theme that consistently emerges in the conversations we have here and across our neighborhoods: enforcement. Whether it's issues related to portside towers, tree preservation, or traffic concerns, the root problem often comes down to how effectively or ineffectively existing laws and regulations are enforced. Take portside towers as an example. Residents have brought up concerns about living conditions, tenant rights, and property management accountability. While regulations may exist to protect tenants, enforcement of those protections is where things break down. It's not enough to have good laws on paper if they're not consistently upheld in practice. We see the same pattern with the protection of our urban tree canopy. After much effort and advocacy, we are in the process of updating ordinances to better protect our trees, but without diligent enforcement, developers and property owners can, and often do, circumvent those rules. Mature trees are cut down, and the community suffers the long-term consequences. Enforcement ensures that our environmental goals aren't just aspirations, but realities. Traffic and pedestrian safety is another critical area. Speed limits, crosswalks, and bike lanes mean little if drivers disregard them without consequence. When enforcement is lacking, our streets become dangerous for everyone, drivers, cyclists, and pedestrians alike. What we need is a citywide commitment to enforcement that matches the strength of our ordinances. This means better resource allocation, more personnel dedicated to oversight, and holding those in violation accountable. Without this, we leave residents feeling unheard and frustrated, believing that even when they follow the process and raise their voices, nothing changes. I urge the council to prioritize not just the creation of thoughtful policy, but also the mechanisms that ensure its enforcement. This is the only way we can build a community where people feel safe, heard, and respected. Thank you, and have a beautiful holiday.
Our next speaker, 5.9, Ann.
I'm Ann Atkinson. Thanks so much for holding this meeting and allowing us to talk. It's really exciting. Yeah, I'm here in support of the protected bike lane on Manhattan Ave and Franklin Ave in Jersey City Heights. I live there. In fact, I live 1 block from Manhattan Ave. And when the demonstration project was there and the bike lane was up, it was amazing. It was so fantastic. I could ride my bike and feel safe and not feel like I'm being mowed down by a car the whole time I'm riding my bike. My dream is to be able to ride my bike with my daughter. I have a 3-year-old. I would love to ride with her on the back, and I want to ride her to daycare. It's a simple dream, but it's extremely achievable because my daycare is on the other end of Franklin. So when the bike lane was there, I could literally ride from my house along Manhattan until it gets to Franklin and then carry on to the daycare. There's 4 daycares on Palisade right there at that intersection. Also, it connects a bunch of public parks, and it's fully funded. So it's kind of just an obvious slam dunk. I mean, what I witnessed when it was up is that it calmed traffic down. The intersection that's right there where Pershing Field is a really busy field. Like the neighborhood uses that field. There are families, there's people walking dogs, there's people with strollers. I see multi-generational families where there's elderly folks who are walking slower, and that intersection is completely insane. It seems like people maybe get mad earlier on and then they suddenly feel like, oh, I can drive, and then they drive crazy right past the park. It's super dangerous. So having a one-way street there was actually pretty useful, separate from the bike lane. But the bike lane connects the Heights to Hoboken so that you can ride a PATH train to get to Manhattan. The second I ride my bike and I get to Hoboken, I feel safe. When I'm in the Heights, not so much. Every time I ride my bike, if I get to downtown, I feel safe. It seems absurd to me to live in a neighborhood where I don't feel safe riding a bike. I don't know what else to say about it. It's so obvious to me, but the fact that it's somehow not obvious to this council makes me just a little confused. I know there was a survey. There's some angry people who drive cars who didn't want the bike lane. Honestly, I think that a neighborhood where there are angry people driving cars is the exact neighborhood where you need a protected bike lane. We need protection from the angry people who are driving the cars. It makes me upset to think about it because I ride my bike all the time. And honestly, when I read the comments of people online who are furious about cyclists, I felt like moving. But my time is up. Please support the bike lane. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker, 5.10, Ryan.
Good evening, council. Been a little while.
Ryan, you want to just raise that mic for you? There you go.
Once again, good evening, council. It's good to be back here. It's been a little while. I wanted to come back and speak tonight because after all, this is the last meeting of the year, or in other words, this is the last meeting before 2025, which, as we all know, is going to be a fairly intense election year. Our state will be electing a new governor. Our city in Jersey City will be electing a new mayor, which not only means that next year is going to be incredibly interesting, it also means that many lawmakers across this state, including members of this body, only have 1 more year left of being in guaranteed office. So to that end, I want to encourage all of you to continue to be bold, and continue to pass policies which place an emphasis on helping members of our middle and working class, because at the end of the day, these folks are still deeply struggling. And frankly, I think that the story of the middle class and the details relating to their don't get discussed often enough. I think it's a story that gets lost in the fray of our political discourse. So in that light, I think there's a lot of value in me reiterating the state of the middle class, because ultimately the numbers on that front are quite troubling. In fact, the data shows us very clearly that over the past 50 years, with each passing decade, the conditions for the middle class have gotten worse and worse as time has gone on. The cost of living has never stopped rising. Meanwhile, our wages remain stagnant. And then, in order to keep up with the rising cost of living, people have begun working multiple jobs. They are putting in longer hours at the jobs they currently hold. They're saving less. They're taking on significantly longer debt. And the kicker there is that all of that extra stuff is being done simply to maintain the same standard of living that was enjoyed 50 years ago. Then, when people try to explain why that's happening, they often blame things like globalization or technology replacing jobs, artificial intelligence, whatever. None of that matters, because none of those factors tell the full story. And the proof comes when you look at every other advanced economy around the world, and you see that they are all subject to those same forces, yet and still their middle classes are much better off than America's. So ultimately, what really differentiates us in the United States is our policies and our laws that we have in place. And that brings me to my point back home here tonight. It is upon every member at every level of government to do everything that they can to pass policies which focus on and help members of our middle and working class. So at the end of the day, my message is once again to encourage members of this body to do just that, even into 2025, even into an election year, which will inevitably complicate things. Bottom line, just keep going. With that, I do say I'm out of time. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah.
Thank you.
See you next year. Thank you.
Our next speaker, 5.11, David.
Hi, members of the council. I'm here because I want the Manhattan Avenue Franklin Street bike lane to be built. My name is David. I'm a resident of Ward C. I live right on Franklin Street with my spouse and our young daughter, and I hope to be there for a very long time. I walk often. I ride the bus. I ride a bike, both alone and with my daughter in a trailer behind me. When the bike lane demonstration project was in place, literally on my doorstep, all of these modes of transportation were easier and, more importantly, safer. With PS8 right on Franklin Street, numerous daycare centers and playgrounds around the corner, there's a real need for traffic calming on the corridor. Every morning, I count 4 of my children's pre-K classmates who arrive with their parents via bike. My daughter rides her balance bike there, and when the lane was in place, she used it every day. It's not just cyclists who will tell you that safety is needed in the area, though. Having Franklin Street designated as a one-way reduced interactions between cars and people. Also, I take exception to comments made by my own councilman in the Jersey Journal this fall. Mr. Baggiano said, quote, "The people in that area do not want any bike lanes." Councilwoman, that's false. I know as well as you do how many people have written letters of support for the bike lane to the city council. I believe you all have those letters. I know how many of those were my neighbors in the Heights. I haven't seen a single person here all year speaking to the council in opposition to the bike lane. I'm asking the council to bring forward a resolution to build the permanent protected bike lane, which is already funded, and to stop acting in deference to an imagined majority who favor the status quo. Real people are here asking you to do your jobs, to use the money we already have to keep children in the Heights safe from reckless drivers. Thanks.
Thank you. Our next speaker, 5.12, Yvonne. Is Yvonne here? No? Next speaker, 5.13, Gil. No? Okay. Next, 5.14, Anne Marie. I didn't see Anne Marie tonight. Not here. Okay, thank you. Next speaker, 5.15, Danielle.
Hey, guys. Do you need to know my name, Sean?
No, you're good.
I am here today to address the lack of leadership from the Director of Safety, Public Safety, James Shea, and Director Moody. I'm here tonight as a mother, a resident, and board member of my block association. I have lived on the west side of Jersey City all of my life, and it is extremely disheartening to see what it has become. The area is a complete mess, and it is a breeding ground for crime and chaos. It is unacceptable that we are left unattended and unprotected. I come here tonight to share some examples of dangerous situations that should never be normalized in any neighborhood in this city. Every morning when I'm taking my 5-year-old to school, we play a dangerous game of Frogger just across the street. For almost 2 years, I have been emailing for a crossing guard on the corner of Jewett Avenue. We have 2 different schools on the 2 corners. The one crossing guard has been out on leave and was never replaced. So now 2 corners are left unattended. The safety of our children should be a top priority, and yet it seems the department has failed to recognize the importance of having a crossing guard in place to ensure the safety of our students. Councilwoman Prince-Aire, I thank you for all of your efforts and you fighting for the residents to change this. I know how frustrating it must be for you to receive no answers from the police department and Director Shea. We have known issues on a particular corner in our neighborhood that has gone unresolved for years, and the community has begged for police patrol and still nothing. When we do receive patrol, the officers are sitting in their cars on their phone with just the lights on, watching issues occur. This includes grown men peeing while we have children leaving school, blocking the sidewalks from sitting on crates, drinking beers, and not to mention known drug dealing and physical fights. Crime prevention means being proactive and having cops notice things, not sit in a car waiting to be called to figure out what happened. Directors Shea and Moody have failed to deliver on any requests made to this issue. Maybe the BA can clarify the line of communication. What will it take? A tragedy? Why do we wait for something tragic to happen? Just on Sunday evening, we had a fatal shooting where everyone heard the gunshots and a person passed away. When I was a teacher and had a coworker whose students weren't performing well and didn't follow protocol, her contract was not renewed and she was let go immediately because she was not protecting and serving her students. I urge the city council and this administration to hold Director Shea and Director Moody accountable for the lack of leadership and to take immediate action to address the issues on the west side and our entire city. Our community deserves better, Jersey City deserves better, and it's time for change. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker, 5.16, William L. Not here. Next, 5.17, Philip.
Good evening once again, Phil Carrington. Looking back in retrospect to the last time I was here, I pointed out that I requested to have a festival on Martin Luther King Drive on July the 23rd, 2022. It was approved, and then mysteriously, when it found out that Phil Carrington was involved, it was ultimately denied. I also give you a demonstration that there's an organization called Rock the Block, was approved in June, that denied me in July, and then approve another organization. These 2 organizations are affiliated with the city of Jersey City. I say that there was a letter written saying that we do not block the city of block the street of Martin Luther King because it's a busy bus route and close proximity. Of course, as I explained to you, the block of the 2 different organizations and deny me, all on the same place. Of course, the other one called Angie Keir, it was the same exact block and street. And so tonight I bring documents to back it up because people has a tendency not to agree or approve statements made by Black people. So here's a document. This is a permit, a street blocking permit. It says July the 23rd, 2022. For me, my organization. Of course, my name was not here. It says Chocolate City. When they found out, they brought the barricades, by the way. But when they found out that apparently that I was involved, they came the day before or the same day and take the barricades up. So if the attorney have this document in their hands, it was in their hands, in their package for a motion for summary judgment. This document was in their package. For the attorney then to say it does not happen, or make reference to the letter, it does not occur, they're just simply lying. Because a lie has to be a record, knowing the truth or knowing and then saying something completely different. I mean, it got so ridiculous that I also had a license. Of course, that was also dismissed as well. And the attorney was saying in front of the judge July the 19th that it was not issued, it was denied, I was not entitled to it. While at the same time, the license here was in her package. So that's not misinformation, that is not willfully false, that's an outright lie. I see, and there's 3 or 4 attorneys was on this here. In the certification, it has Marks, it has Brittany Murray, it had Michael Gomer, 3 or 4. So you cannot make these statements and then try to explain to people that there is something else.
Thank you, Phil. Our next speaker, 5.18, Kevin.
Good evening, council members. I apologize if I'm a bit rusty, given I missed my chance to speak before you last time. I am glad to be here early enough to speak tonight. At the last council meeting, only 4 of us were here in time for public comment. The agenda seemed to move faster than ever, and by the time public speaking began, most of us hadn't yet arrived. We were very disappointed. We cleared our evenings, some hired babysitters, and others rushed straight from work without even having dinner, all to share what we prepared with care and hope. When we missed that chance, it was frustrating, upsetting even. But we respected the rules, as we always do. We don't have to like them, but we follow them. So I ask, when will the consistently bad actors in this city, those who ignore the ordinances and laws without consequences, be held to the same standard? Take our landlord, Equity Residential, that disregard rules, complain about due process, and continue to operate as if the laws don't apply to them. But let me remind everyone, due process does not require this city to ignore plain evidence of non-compliance. As we close out the year before this council for the 3rd time, I'm struck by how familiar this all feels. In December 2022, we stood here after receiving pledges of support from several of you. In December 2023, we had just won a unanimous rent leveling board determination. Yet here we are, a full year into litigation, still waiting for enforcement of ordinances unrelated to litigation. The reason for the inaction may change, but the results are always the same, aren't they? We still have no 24/7 uniform security, even though a mother begged this council when a bullet pierced her son's bedroom window. We still have no resident superintendent in either building, as this ordinance requires. The sideways landlord identity certificate remains posted with no phone number for any human being living in the state of New Jersey, and no resident superintendent listed. The Korean War Memorial remains unsecured. Even last meeting with just our 4 speakers, we shared the horrifying story of a bleeding woman seeking refuge in her lobby while her attacker roamed freely. We presented years of documented violations and still nothing. Maybe the city sent a letter, but Equity hasn't moved an inch. The ordinance allows for daily fines. By failing to enforce it, the city effectively endorses these conditions and signals to landlords across Jersey City they can do the same thing. You waited out the tenants of 100 Montgomery. One of their regular speakers is now homeless. We've had Portside Tower speakers stand here who are now homeless too. Please help us.
Our next speaker, 5.19, Eric.
Good evening, Council. Mayor Fulop is running for governor. Tonight, I'm here to tell you why New Jersey should be running away from him. Consider Portside Towers, just one property in our city. 2 years of documented violations, 2 years of ignored ordinances, 2 years of certificates masquerading as compliance, 2 years of a mayor's office watching bloodstained lobby floors while required security stays missing and mandated superintendents live hours away. If this is what happens under Mayor Fulop's watch in one building, imagine this pattern multiplied across an entire state. If he can't ensure basic safety ordinances are enforced in Jersey City, how can he protect 10 million New Jersey residents? This isn't about politics, it's about patterns. When a mayor allows meaningless certificates to substitute for actual security, there's a pattern. When his administration accepts fictional addresses for supposedly resident superintendents, that's a pattern. When his office watches violation after violation accumulate without enforcement, that's a pattern. And pattern predicts performance. To those on this council who aspire to be our next mayor, you watch this unfold. You've heard nearly 800 speeches documenting violations. You've seen the photos, read the reports, witnessed the consequences. Your oversight of this systematic failure is now part of your record too. The question isn't just whether Mayor Fulop is ready to govern New Jersey. It's whether anyone who's overseen this systematic erosion of safety requirements is ready to govern Jersey City. If you can't protect residents in one building, you can't protect them in a city. If you can't enforce ordinances in Jersey City, you can't enforce laws in New Jersey. If you tolerate fiction as fact here, you'll accept it everywhere. So yes, while Mayor Fulop runs for governor, New Jersey should run the other way. For those of you running for mayor or for your seat at this council, what are you running for if you won't help us? If we're in our shoes, wouldn't you be inclined to run to someone else? Thank you.
Our next speaker, 5.20, Jessica.
Councilpeople, thank you for being here this evening. Tonight, I'm going to share with you a letter from the Office of the Mayor of Hoboken, written on December 6, 2024. And I quote, "Dear Marine View Plaza residents, please accept this correspondence as confirmation that the Mayor's Office and City Council are aware that during the Thanksgiving holiday, and again over the past 24 hours, many of you have received notice of an approximately 10% rent increase from your landlord, Marine View Plaza, MVP. It is the city's position that MVP's, sorry, it's very distracting with him speaking there. It is the city's position that MVP's action in this regard is in violation of the city's rent control ordinances. I'm sorry, excuse me, could you please stop laughing and speaking while I'm trying to speak, as is my right? It's extremely distracting and disrespectful. Okay, but yes, this is business. Thank you. Okay. We can assure you that this administration and City Council will do everything in its power to help those impacted address the situation. In fact, MVP will be served with a summons for defying Hoboken rent control ordinances. As your elected officials, we will continue to stand up to the property owners' blatant attempts to enrich their pockets at the expense of our residents. We recognize that this is a complicated topic, particularly for residents who are unsure what their rights are and how to respond to the rent increase notices. To help answer any questions you may have, we have arranged for an in-person meeting with Hoboken's tenant advocate, Andrew Sobiel Esquire, to take place on Wednesday, December 11th at 7 p.m. in Hoboken City Council chambers at City Hall. Address is given and even where to find it. Please also note that this meeting is limited to current tenants of Marine View Plaza, and we encourage any MVP resident with questions to attend. As always, Hoboken's tenant advocate services are free of charge to you. Here is some additional information that may be useful. According to Hoboken's rent control regulations, which thankfully were upheld through recent rent control referendum in November, a property owner is permitted to raise rents in rent-controlled units that have been registered with the city by 5% or the consumer price index, whichever is less. The CPI in January is 4%. It's important to note that the MVP owners have not yet registered their property with Hoboken's rent control office. Therefore, bolded, assuming the city's position that rent control applies, the failure would prevent MVP from issuing any rent increases. I'd like to note again, this is from the mayor and the council. MVP was previously governed under rental regulations as dictated.
Thank you.
Thank you. To be continued.
Our next speaker, 5.21, David. Thank you. Next speaker, 5.22, Mark.
Continuing, MVP was previously governed under rental regulations dictated by the New Jersey Housing, Mortgage and Finance Association, HMFA. However, when the property owners paid off their mortgage with HMFA, the rules and regulations pertaining to rent then became subject to the City of Hoboken's rent control ordinance. The mayor's office has been in direct contact with the executive director of HMFA and various legal and housing experts, and they acknowledge and agree that the rules pertaining to rent in Marine View Plaza are now the sole direct discretion of the City of Hoboken and our rent control rules. MVP has provided the city a proposed plan to convert the rental units in MVP to owner-occupied condos for those residents who wish to purchase their units. Besides the conversion of rent-controlled units to owner-occupied condos being impermissible according to city law, we also felt this ill-conceived proposal would have eroded important rent control protections for the large majority of residents and thus could not support it. The city is also investigating the reports that MVP is refusing to rent certain units in both MVP buildings and may in fact be attempting to sell them and convert them into condos according to city law. A practice of leaving units vacant intentionally, also known as warehousing, is not permitted. In addition, as stated above, city law does not permit the conversion of rental units into condos. The city will aggressively pursue any and all avenues to enforce these laws. We thank you for your patience and remain committed to protecting and supporting all of the residents of Marine View Plaza. Sincerely, Ravi Bala, Mayor, James Doyle, Council President, Emily Jabor, at-large Council Member, Joe Quintero, at-large Council Member, Paul Presinzano, First Ward Council, Tiffany Fisher, Second Ward Council, Michael Russo, Third Ward Council, Ruben Ramos, Fourth Ward Council, and Phil Cohen, Fifth Ward Council Member. Thank you.
Our next speaker, 5.23, Erin. Erin. Just follow along the agenda. You'll see your name.
Apologies. All right, good evening, council members. It's been a while. Hope you're all doing well. Equity Residential touts Portside Towers as a place that offers its residents luxury and what they call remarkable living. Equity Residential also just received an award called Residential Leader in the Light, given to real estate investors who demonstrate leadership in implementing sustainable and socially responsible investment and operating practices, good governance, and transparency. I'm not going to insult anyone's intelligence by pointing out the insane irony in this, but I will remind us all that Equity, who is supposed to be a beacon of light in the world of corporate responsibility, loves to keep its tenants suffering in the dark. When I say dark, I mean literally. Several incidents have happened in Paulus Hook lately that make me afraid to walk my dog alone at night. I should be able to see my apartment building as a safe haven from the outside, but I can't because Portside will not comply with the law that requires a uniformed security guard to staff the lobby at all times. So was supposed to deliver this 2 weeks ago. So at that point, I had just learned about an extremely disturbing event that happened recently in the East Tower. Apparently, right outside the building, a man hit his girlfriend in the face hard enough that she was bleeding significantly. She entered the East Tower seeking protection and was guided to the back office, leaving the lobby unstaffed and completely open to the outside, as it always seems to be. This gave the man the opportunity to walk inside the building and try to find the woman he attacked. Thankfully, Kevin was there to help, and another night concierge came out from the back to block the man's access. To add insult to literal injury, another tenant was threatened with bodily harm when they requested a late night trespasser in the Korean War Memorial parking lot turn down their loud music. This would never have happened if the uniformed security had closed the park as legally required. Reminder, there's no uniformed security to do it. I want to know just how much bad PR does equity need until it takes meaningful action? The optics are so bad right now that it had to win an award that's the equivalent of a kindergarten participation trophy. It means nothing. I want to say another thing. Some residents have also witnessed other instances of men hitting their female partners openly in our neighborhood. By not instituting security in our buildings, per the law, you are sending the message that safety for Jersey City residents, men and women alike, is not a priority. Fires, flood, bullet holes, fighting outside the building, and now this, remarkable living indeed. Thank you.
Our next speaker, 5.24, Joel.
Good evening, council. Let me take you on a journey through time, through 2 years of evolving excuses for inaction, 2 years of hearing council members telling us, November 22, we hear you, we'll help you. December 22, just follow the administrative process. March 23, let the rent leveling board decide. June 23, the courts will handle this. September 23, don't mention anything in litigation. November 23, focus only on non-litigation issues. Today, still no enforcement, no security, no resident superintendents. Notice a pattern with each passing month. The excuses evolve, but the violations remain constant. The path to justice keeps getting longer, but the distance to actual enforcement, as we've heard elsewhere, never seems to shrink. 2 years ago, we were told that we just needed document violations. We've now documented over 2,700 violations of the uniform security requirement alone, and that's just since June 2022. We're told to follow proper channels. We followed every channel imaginable. We were told to be patient with the process, and that process has been paid for with blood, literally on the lobby floor just last week, a couple of weeks ago. Each new excuse comes wrapped in the language of procedure, dressed in the clothing of process, masked in the mystery of municipal mechanics. But strip away these layers, and what remains? A simple truth. Laws without enforcement are just paper. Your laws. Ordinances without action are just words. Your words, but no action. Remember when this council chamber heard about the August fire? The response was let the process work. The first time we reported missing security, follow the proper channels. We did. We helped you amend the ordinance, and still we have no security. Earlier this week at 6 o'clock, I came down to the front desk to collect a package. The desk was unoccupied. I waited for more than 15 minutes for the concierge to come back. He was upstairs helping a resident with a heating issue. No superintendent, no uniformed security to man the desk while he was gone. During that time, multiple delivery folks for food came in and went upstairs without being checked. Not acceptable. Violations don't evolve, they multiply. Danger doesn't diminish without delay. Risk doesn't respect process. What will be today's new excuse? Or perhaps, just perhaps, today could be different. Today could be the day when action replaces excuses, when enforcement supersedes evolution, when protection outweighs process. Please understand and remember, while excuses evolve, consequences remain constant.
Thank you. Our next speaker, 5.25, Daniel.
Today, I wanted to discuss something that occurred in our building just a few weeks ago. So the Friday before Thanksgiving on November 22nd, I had left town and I returned 2 days later on Sunday, November 24th. My wife actually did not come with me, so she stayed home at our home in Portside Towers. And I was horrified to learn that on Friday, November 22nd, while my wife was all alone in our apartment, a non-resident who had just attacked a young woman to the point where she was bleeding entered our lobby downstairs through the front door, which was unlocked with no security or staff on the scene, to attack this woman more after she had come in to try to avoid him. And it really freaks me out that nothing was stopping this attacker from going upstairs to my apartment where my wife was all alone. Now, Ordinance 24-055 was adopted unanimously by this council on June 26, 2024, and signed by both Council President Joyce E. Waterman the same day and by Mayor Stephen Fulop the following day. That ordinance amended Chapter 218, Section 1 of the Jersey City Municipal Code and specifies, quote, every owner or agent of an owner of a multiple dwelling of 100 or more dwelling units shall furnish a minimum of one uniformed security guard for each residential building in the property or community upon its premises 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The owner or agent of the multiple dwelling shall post conspicuous signage inside the common areas and entrance points of the building that shall provide the direct on-site contact information of the uniformed security guards present. For the purposes of this chapter, a uniformed security guard shall consist of a licensed New Jersey security guard as specified in NJSA 13:55A, hired for the purpose of protection of persons or property, real or personal, from injury or harm, that wears a particular set of clothes that clearly indicates them as a security guard, end quote. So you all signed this into law with us present here to protect us. So why is there no uniformed security present? And why was an attacker able to enter my building when my wife was all alone? Is it going to take a tragedy to get a law that you all voted on unanimously enforced? You know, I very often come home late at night with the front door of our building wide open and with no staff present. I don't understand why there's a law that you all agreed to adopt and to sign into law that's not being enforced, and nothing's being done about it, and it's putting our safety at stake. So please do something about it. Thank you.
Our next speaker, 5.26, Anna. Thank you. Our next speaker, 5.27, Alexandra. Next speaker, 5.28, Carol.
Good evening, Council. Tonight, I've brought an empty chair to these chambers, and let me tell you what it represents. This chair could be filled by the uniformed security guard who should be protecting Portside Towers right now, but isn't. It could be filled by the resident superintendent who should live on site, but doesn't. It could be filled by the victim who escaped to our lobby but found no security present to help. It could be filled by the night concierge who had to choose between staying at the desk or hiding a bleeding woman because no security guard was there to help. It could be filled by the elderly resident who needs immediate assistance but gets hold music instead. It could be filled by the parent who must shepherd their child past an unlocked front door, unsure of who or what might come through. It could be filled by the veteran who deserves to see the Korean War Memorial treated with dignity, but instead sees it become a hub for drug deals and other dangers at night because no security is there to secure the site. It could be filled by someone who used to live at Portside, but is now homeless, displaced by rising rents and unlivable conditions that this city has failed to prevent. This empty chair represents every missing protection, every ignored ordinance, every unenforced law. It represents the gap between what's required and what's provided, between what's promised and what's delivered, between what's certified and what's real. You have the power to fill this chair, to require the presence of every protection these laws demand, to mandate the security these ordinances require, to enforce the safety these residents deserve. Until you do, this chair remains empty, like the security post after hours, like our superintendent's apartment, like our promises of protection. The question isn't who should fill this chair. The law already answers that. The question is who will ensure it gets filled. Thank you.
Next speaker, 5.29, Barbara.
Evening, council members. I'll keep it simple because it shouldn't be complicated. Jersey City ordinances require basic protections for tenants. Talking about a resident superintendent, uniform security, proper emergency contact information. These are not optional. They are the law. Yet at Portside Towers, none of these requirements are being met. No resident superintendent, no 24/7 uniform security. Contact information posted on our buildings doesn't even list a local human being. These are not minor oversights. They're violations that put lives at risk. Last month, a bleeding woman sought help in our lobby. There was no security guard to protect her or the residents trying to help. The city has the tools to fix this. Daily fines are allowed under the ordinance. They can be enforced right now. But instead, these violations are ignored and nothing changes. If landlords like Equity Residential can break the law without consequences, what message does that send? To them, it says, keep going, nothing will happen. To tenants, it says, your safety doesn't matter. Council members, we are asking for action. Use the tools you already have. Enforce the rules that protect us. These are basic rights, not luxuries. Thank you.
Our next speaker, 5.30, Sonja.
Good evening, Council. As you heard, there was a headline recently that Equity Residential has been awarded NIRIGHT's 24 Leader in the Light Award for the residential sector. That did not come to us as a surprise. Yes, you heard right, no surprise. We've learned that that it is advisable to educate before someone can say something like, look, it can't be that bad, Equity even wins awards. So here's a little background. I did a quick survey with a couple of people. Quite a few of those I've asked have been somehow involved in industry awards, best place to work, university rankings and such. Of those who have been involved in the decision-making process about if their employer or company should take part, 100% came to the conclusion that these awards are meaningless. 100% of those who still took part, that's right, still, because not everything that doesn't make any sense is not done, we know that by now, have submitted data that is self-reported input, meaning an intern copies a few descriptive sentences from the diversity and inclusion program's intranet page into the field that asks about how inclusive the workplace is. So far about the general, as you can see, often very doubtful methods of these awards. Now to Equity's residential awards. NIRIGHT's methodology was not very transparent to me, but what I got from a quick search is that the article about the award references Equity's report on corporate responsibility and how resident engagement is covered on 3 pages of 75. Interesting, right? Because the award is about, I quote, implementing sustainable and socially responsible investment and operating practices, good governance and transparency. Anyway, resident engagement is measured in an, let's say, innovative way, namely by reporting on what's important to residents, such as sustainability, but not mentioning one score about their satisfaction with what Equity provides. Reporting residents' sustainability engagement instead of Equity's. Reporting that 90.5% of the residents who attended an event on property liked that event. That's funnier than judging a bottle by its label, bottle of wine by its label. Not reporting any net promoter scores as they are, I quote, no longer an accurate measure of true resident satisfaction. That is my favorite, as our companies we know regard this as the only true measure of customer satisfaction and loyalty. Instead, Equity says renewal rates remain, I quote, high at about 55%, which means half of the people don't renew. Why? I'm asking. This little section shows clearly that the reports are about optics, more about reality.
Our next speaker, 5.31, Danilo.
Good evening. Before I get back to the award, let me start with some numbers. 20, 90, 3, 229. 20, that's the number of days we have only 2 out of 3 elevators working in the West Tower. 90 degrees. That's what Equity considers sufficient for a hygienic hot wash, 35% less than what it should be as per CDC guidelines. 3 minutes. That's how long it takes to even get hot water in our kitchen. On top of that, we flush gallons of water down the toilet every time, as they have no control like modern ones have. Many of them leak permanently and waste water constantly. 229 apartments have currently only 2 elevators and are wasting thousands of gallons of water every day in the West Tower alone. And that in light of a severe drought and related water conservation advisory, which we just overcome now. And as you know, and we have spoken about it many times, this is just one of many examples where Equity doesn't fulfill its promise of sustainable and resident-friendly services. Do you think this is one of the reasons why Equity is not publishing a Net Promoter Score? We certainly do. Indeed, the award Sonia spoke about is just nice optics. Sustainability, socially responsible. The reality at Portside is as ugly as it gets. Crying mothers and fathers because they belong to the other half of Equity's high renewal rate of 55% and can't bear the conditions anymore. We heard about the woman seeking shelter in our building. We heard about residents getting harassed at our property from people trespassing and playing loud music at 1 a.m. in the night. So let me end with some more numbers. 1.8 billion, 4.3%, 928 million, 36%. 1.8 billion is the gross profit of Equity in 2023, an increase of 4.3% compared to 22. 928 million is the net profit of Equity in 23, 36% above 2022. They get rich and richer by ignoring laws and regulations at the cost of our health and well-being, and you have it in your hands to do something about that. Thank you.
Our next speaker, 5.32, Tara.
Good evening, Council. Tonight, I want to talk about words and their power, specifically about the dangerous cascade of consequences that occurs when official documents diverge from observable reality. According to Merriam-Webster, to lie means to make an untrue statement with intent to deceive, but there's also another definition, to create a false or misleading impression. The distinction matters. One implies malice, the other can result from confusion, incompetence, or systemic failure. As an Equity residential tenant and fervent supporter of all members and initiatives of the Portside Towers Tenants Association, I've observed the deliberate nature of Equity's unfolding pattern. When one false impression goes unchallenged, it invites more. Consider what we've all heard. An initial certificate of compliance, despite photographed violations, became a test. And now I've personally seen Equity's response. A DCA certificate mounted sideways on a wall listing no resident superintendent and not one phone number for anyone in the United States, as if mere paper satisfies legal requirements. That would be like submitting a document, calling it a rent roll, but leaving out most of the required information. Both create the appearance of compliance while deliberately evading its purpose. The DCA certificate claims an address at Portside Towers for a superintendent who lives over an hour away, and the phone number connects callers to hold music and oversees operators who can't summon a resident super in emergencies. This pattern extends across equity residential properties. At 70 Green, my equity residential address, threats to my life and ability to make an income due to repeated catastrophic flooding was a daily occurrence. During the first catastrophic flooding event I experienced at 70 Green, my neighbors and I learned that our resident superintendent had been dead for years. No one who could find the source nor stop the flooding was trained in his absence, and even the Jersey City Fire Department struggled to bring order to the chaos due to the lack of filing updated contact information and access to mechanical drawings. When we hear about a property manager saying something like, "Find me if you want, am I supposed to be Kinko's?" before submitting misleading paperwork, they're testing boundaries. Will anyone verify the addresses? Will anyone notice the resident superintendent isn't resident at all? You can't meet a mandate for resident superintendents with non-resident names. You can't satisfy emergency response requirements with overseas callers, and you certainly can't protect residents with a sideways certificate full of fiction. Thank you. For the record, I am also fully aware that I am not a lawyer.
Our next speaker, 5.33, John. 5.34, Mel. Thank you. 5.35, Brendan.
Second. Evening, Council. Last time I spoke about everyone's favorite childhood game, or mine at least, Simon Says. Sadly tonight, I'm here about a different kind of game, a prediction game, but I have faith that you will be able to follow along. You see, when we say if something happens, we're making a guess. When we say when something happens, we are stating a fact. 4 weeks ago, my friend and fellow tenant Michelle said that it wasn't if something would happen, but instead when something happens. When arrived mere days after she said those words, rather prophetically. When brought violence into our lobby. When left bloodstains on our walls. When put equity residential staff and my fellow tenants in danger. When made residents walk past bloodstains. When forced our concierge to hide a victim in the back office. When let an attacker walk freely through our lobby. And where was our required uniform security during all this? In non-existence. Let me explain something now. When doesn't care about if, maybe. In programming terms, when will almost always happen. When doesn't wait for enforcement. When doesn't check if you're ready. When just happens. It doesn't hesitate. So here's my prediction for you. When you enforce the law, we stay safer. When you don't, well, we just saw what when brought us. I can't wait to see what it brings us next. This isn't a game anymore. When happened once, I hope the next time I stand here, we can flip this conversation and talk about when you enforce the ordinances you passed throughout the city. Now I have a little time left over and a promise to keep. I asked the esteemed Mayor Fulop how he would protect the tenants as governor of New Jersey when he appears to ignore our plight and issues. This was on the Ask Me Anything Reddit post today. Unfortunately, he has not yet replied and never did. Please don't wait until the police come. They can't get there in time. Now to end, I am also not a lawyer, nor do I play one on TV. I'm just a product of two of them and I'm quite annoyed. Have a nice holiday.
Thank you.
Our next speaker, 5.36, Suzanne.
Good evening, Council. I stand before you tonight as a resident of Portside, as you know, where our safety concerns continue to grow. At our buildings with over 200 units each, we lack both the legally required 24/7 uniform security and an on-site superintendent, two critical safety requirements under New Jersey law. Speaking of following rules, I noticed at our last council meeting how precisely the meeting procedures were followed. When the public speaking portion began earlier than usual, only 4 of our 18 registered speakers were present to address you. The others, accustomed to the timeline you were previously following, were still making their way here, leaving work early, arranging childcare, coordinating their schedules to participate in our democratic process. This prompt adherence to meeting protocols brings me to my main point. We need the same rigorous attention to laws designed to protect residents' safety. In a building of our size, having no superintendent living on the premises isn't just an inconvenience, it's a serious safety risk. When emergencies occur, we have no one to contact, no uniform security to assist, no superintendent's unit number or contact information as required by law. The contrast with Hoboken is striking. Their council demonstrates immediate action when residents raise concerns about violations of Hoboken's rent law. Their rapid response shows what's possible when a city prioritizes its residents. Meanwhile, Portside residents continue to face challenges with both safety compliance and rent control enforcement. I witnessed this council's swift response when a resident spoke about being assaulted last meeting. That showed me you care about resident safety. But at Portside, when pipes burst, when elevators malfunction, when security incidents occur, who do we call? Why are we still unequipped with the resources we are required to have as stated in the ordinance you passed? Does anyone here care? We get zero empathy and endless runarounds. In my professional life, this level of negligence would result in immediate termination. So I ask 3 straightforward questions. Can we ensure our buildings have the legally required 24/7 uniformed security? Can we address the lack of an on-site superintendent? Can we ensure all residents have access to emergency contacts as required by law? These things really don't seem that hard to enforce, for one thing. They're not political. It's putting a security guard, who I'm sure we have available, to work in our building. Your silence thus far has been deafening. But remember, while you're so quick to enforce rules about when we can speak, we're just as determined to fight for the rules that protect our safety and rights. Thank you.
Our next speaker, 5.37, Jessica.
Good evening, City Council. Tonight, I'd also want to focus on tenant safety and how critical it is for this council to enforce the ordinance requirements that protect residents like me. As someone who often and for nearly 20 years has commuted home late from work or takes my dog out for a walk late at night, I know firsthand what it feels like to be concerned about safety. My parents raised me to pay attention to my environment. I'm always on alert. I'm always looking around, taking self-defense classes. I'm not without awareness of dangerous surroundings. But there's a park next to my building, which is a huge benefit with a dog, but it always has suspicious activity ongoing at night. That suspicious activity, I grew up on a corner where drug activity was happening all the time. I know what I'm looking at, it's drugs. And while I try to be cautious, it's unsettling to feel unsafe next to my front door. In fact, I've been verbally threatened before in that park and around that park. Last year on 4th of July, I was threatened when I asked somebody to, not set fireworks off near my dog's face. So we need uniform security. Uniform security in our high-rise buildings isn't just a box to check, it's an essential safeguard. For tenants like me, this is about peace of mind and safety. Without it, coming home after dark or walking my dog through shared spaces feels unnecessarily risky. These ordinances exist because tenant safety matters, yet we see Equity Residential repeatedly ignoring their obligations without consequence. I want to also address what it feels like to experience harassment through the absence of security. When landlords or managers neglect their duty to provide a safe environment, it creates a climate of fear. In larger buildings, that fear is amplified because the risks are greater, and in this case, there's no information. So if one person sees something, there's no one to call. Like someone said before, if you call the number that's listed, it's the number that goes to an answering service, and they basically say, okay, we'll call you back. I've been in situations where I've waited for callbacks for days. So if we're talking about immediate safety issues, this number is just woefully insufficient. In larger buildings where that fear is amplified, the lack of security is not just neglect, it's an act of disregard for our well-being. The same applies to the requirement for a live-in superintendent. Our heater actually died last night, we realized. Today it wasn't so bad, it was 58 degrees, but tomorrow winter is back. I don't have any hope of getting that heater repaired tomorrow. Without a dedicated super, critical maintenance issues go unresolved, leaving residents to deal with our unsafe or uncomfortable conditions. And it's not a minor inconvenience, it's a failure to meet basic living standards. The lack of enforcement has ripple effects. When landlords provide fewer services and they still charge for it, it's for services unrendered. Thank you.
Next speaker, 5.38, Joe. I think he left. Our next speaker, 5.39, Sylvia.
Council members, I stand before again and again in the last 2 years by now. My neighbors at Portside and I are here today taking time away for families, for work obligations, and to ensure our needs are not forgotten. I must remind you that we still have not on-site superintendent. No one is available to address emergencies after office hours. And even during office hours, we wait 2 to 4 days for maintenance team to respond to urgency repairs. Our security remain at risk while the landlord install the fob entry system. Many of these doesn't work and leaving our building entrance unsecure. Despite the city ordinance require an uniform security in each building, we have seen no progress in this front. Security incidents continue to increase, particularly during night hours, as you have been heard by now. I would also like to note that our neighboring city of Hoboken Council recently took action by issuing a letter requiring a large building landlord to comply with their rent control regulations. While we find the situation here discouraging, we will not give up of our fight for safe, well-maintained housing. Happy holidays. I hope you can have it better than many of us will not. Thank you.
Our next speaker, 5.40, Kara. Is Kara here? Okay, next speaker, 5.41, Seth. No. Next speaker, 5.42, L. Forster. Not here, thank you. Next speaker, 5.43, Susan. Okay.
I may speak a little longer than 3 minutes because I have several things.
You will be stopped after 3 minutes.
Well, then we'll start with, get rid of the Christmas tree because you're not doing Kwanzaa and you're not doing menorahs. So you're not being correct to all the different religions. Bikes, the bikes, they don't even abide by the traffic laws. But what I did come down here for was about the water compliance fees. People do not understand the bills the Veolia is sending out. They do not understand why they're getting charged $218 because Veolia claims that they can't read the meter. But when somebody comes to check it, there's nothing wrong. These people are going to wind up having liens put against their house, and they're going to lose their homes because people cannot read those statements. I had a hard time getting those charges taken off. My house was in the middle of being rehabbed. Nobody was living there. I did exactly what they wanted, taking pictures of the meters and everything else. If it wasn't for Richie Borgiano and Youssef Soleil, I would still have the lien there. I've spoken to different people on the council, and they just pass me by. Well, I'm not alone. I'm helping other people also. And I'm told that a lot of people don't even realize what's happening. And these are people that cannot afford the increase of $218 a month, which is over $2,400 a year. I have one friend she inherited a house from her parents when they passed on. One person is paying $340 a month for an apartment. How is she supposed to be paying $2,400 a year when she's not making any money to support the house? She can't afford that. And this is not just one person. I'm sure there's a lot of people in the city. And to try to get help, Veolia, we could call them 25 minutes. We're on the phone waiting for somebody to pick up, and then they disconnect. And Veolia wants you to come back and call back constantly so that you could speak to somebody. And then you get somebody who, well, that's the cost, so you have to take it. You have to pay it. Well, why don't you fix the wire? Well, nobody's
Thank you.
in the
Your
house.
time is up.
What are you going to do about it?
Our next speaker, 5.44, Adita. Not here. Next speaker, 5.45, Mia I think she left as well. Next speaker, 5.46, Gracie.
Will be embarrassed. The papers.
Good evening, Council. Fear has an anatomy. Like a body, it has layers. Let me dissect them for you. Layer 1, the surface. You come home late, the lobby is empty, no security guard, though the law requires one. The front door stands unlocked, allowing anyone to walk in. This is the skin of fear, the daily uncertainty of entering an unprotected space. Layer 2, deeper tissue. You hear a disturbance near the Korean War Memorial. The ordinance requires portside security to monitor and close that area at night. But there is no security. The disturbance grows. Who will respond? This is the muscle of fear, the growing tension of knowing help isn't coming. Layer 3, the bones. A resident receives death threats from individuals who use the memorial's grounds at night. They call the building. Hold music plays. An overseas voice offers to make a note. The superintendent who lives an hour away can't respond. These are the bones of fear, the structural weakness of failed protection. Layer 4, the vital organs. A bleeding woman seeks refuge in our lobby. The attacker follows, no security present, no resident super to coordinate response, just a certificate on a wall listing people who don't live here, numbers that don't reach help. This is the heart of fear. The life-threatening reality of systematic non-enforcement. This anatomy of fear isn't natural. It's manufactured by choice, by choosing fiction over function, appearance over action. Each layer builds upon the last. Each violation enables the next. The missing security guard enables the memorial disturbance. The absent superintendent enables delayed response. The facade of compliance enables real danger. We have mapped this anatomy for you. We have shown you each layer. We have documented every tissue of non-compliance, every bone of violation, every organ of risk. The question isn't whether this body of fear exists. We have proved that. The question is, will you perform the surgery needed to exercise it? Because fear may have anatomy, but courage has a cure. Enforcement. Thank you.
Our next speaker, 5.47, Robert. Robert, hold on one second. Kevin, is that your sign?
I am not an attorney. Good evening, Jersey City Council members, assembled city staff, and fellow residents of Jersey City. My name is Robert Lapine. I am a resident of Ward C in the Hilltop. I am not here tonight to address an issue in Ward C, but I am here to speak about an issue that took place in Ward E, Council Solomon's area representation, but could happen in any of the districts here in Jersey City. My great-grandson attends the School 16 Annex, which opened in October 2021 on Washington Street between Montgomery and Columbus. He is 5 years old and is in one of the kindergarten classes. Councilperson Solomon, you are aware of the fact that a situation took place. I spoke with Priya. But there was a child that was hit by a bike, a city bike, on Tuesday, November 26 at 8:31 a.m. To provide some context and clarification, the child that was hit by that city bike that was riding at a high rate of speed on wet painted green asphalt bike lanes in the wrong direction in front of a school is my great-grandson. Thankfully, with the supportive and quick thinking environment of the administrators at the School 16 Annex, first responders, EMS, and the police were there in under 6 minutes. And he was transported to the Jersey City Medical Center and found to only have a scrape or two and was shaken by the incident. Unfortunately, in all of the confusion going on with the 30 to 40 parents dropping off their children and school administrators responding to the incident, the city bike rider slithered away and fled the scene, despite my aggressive mannered words that he used after he appeared at the East Precinct, as indicated in the police report completed for this incident. And I would say it again, aggressive mannered attempts to have him stay put until JCPD arrived. It is truly appalling, but I'm not shocked that with the rise in taxes in Jersey City and the large increase in the budget for the Jersey City Board of Education, that the hiring of school crossing guards across the city, not only here at the intersections of Washington Street and Christopher Columbus and Washington Street and Montgomery Street, or is that a lack? That is a task of public safety. What I did find out in speaking with Priya, that the one person that's at Montgomery and Washington Street has been MIA for several weeks. What is it going to take to make the area safe at these two intersections? Someone to be maimed for life, be killed, and taken away from loved ones? All these students, parents, school administrators, and my great-grandson.
Your time is up.
Is to feel secure.
Our next speaker, 5.48, Salvador. Salvador is not here. And the last speaker who signed up before the meeting started, 5.49, Debbie.
Thank you so much. My name is Debbie White. I'm the president of Health Professionals and Allied Employees. Thank you, Councilman Solomon, Council President Waterman and council members who have become co-sponsors of the resolution that we sent encouraging you to support the bargaining unit members of all of CarePoint. As we all know, CarePoint declared bankruptcy in October. Not new for the CarePoint system. I mean, we've been through this before. We have many unions represented in the CarePoint system, including, but not limited to, because I may forget one or two. There's HPAE, there's Genesso, there's CIR, who are doctors. There is 1199J AFSCME, and again, I may have forgotten one. Local 68, sorry. Once we knew Hudson Regional was seeking to acquire the entire system as a prospective employer, we sent him an agreement. We had many conversations with him, sent the Hudson Regional administrators a prospective agreement, which they verbally said to us they would sign. They have yet to sign a prospective agreement that would recognize our contracts, that would recognize our unions, that would assure job security for these employees who've been there all throughout the pandemic and throughout the debacle that was CarePoint. But we don't want vague promises. We want written assurances. That's what we need as unions. And we want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts for your support in holding Hudson Regional accountable to the unions and to bargaining units. So again, we appreciate your support. We appreciate the resolution before you. And I know it hasn't been presented as yet, but thank you. There's only one speaker, but I am with all of my members from HPAE. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that will conclude the public speaking portion of the meeting. Right, council members, any questions or comments on petitions and communications, items 6.1 through 6.22? Hearing none, there are no office communications nor report of directors. And I'm going to go right on to our claims and addendum number 1. So council members are going to be taking a vote on claims and addendum number 1. Councilperson Ridley.
Aye.
Councilperson Prinzary.
Aye.
Councilperson Baggiano. Councilperson Saleh.
Aye.
Councilperson Solomon.
Aye.
Councilperson Gilmore.
Aye.
Councilperson DeGise.
Aye.
And Council President Waterman. Claims and addendum number 1 are approved 8-0 with Councilperson Rivera absent. On to our resolutions. Council members are going to be taking a vote on items 10.1 through 10.14. Again, that's 10.1 through 10.14. Councilperson Ridley.
Aye.
Councilperson Prinzary.
Abstain on 10.2, aye on the rest.
Thank you. Councilperson Baggiano.
Aye.
Councilperson Saleh.
You said till what, which one?
10.1 through 10.14.
Aye for all.
Thank you. Councilperson Solomon.
Aye for all.
Councilperson Gilmore.
To 14, right, Sean?
Yes, sir.
Aye.
Councilperson DeGise.
Aye.
And Council President Waterman. Okay, item 10.1 is approved 8-0 with Councilperson Rivera absent. Item 10.2 is approved 7-0-1 with Councilperson Prinzary abstaining. And items 10.3 through 10.14 are approved 8-0 with Councilperson Rivera absent. On to our next set of resolutions, items 10.15 through 10.25. Again, that's 10.15 through 10.25. Councilperson Ridley.
Aye.
Councilperson Prinzary.
Aye for all.
Councilperson Baggiano.
Aye.
Councilperson Saleh.
Aye.
Councilperson Solomon.
Aye.
Councilperson Gilmore.
Aye.
Councilperson DeGise.
Aye.
And Council President Waterman. Items 10.15 through 10.25 are approved 8-0 with Councilperson Rivera absent. And on to the balance of our resolutions, items 10.26 through 10.34. Again, 10.26 through 10.34. Councilperson Ridley.
Aye.
Councilperson Prinzary.
Aye for all.
Councilperson Baggiano. Councilperson Saleh.
I'm gonna vote aye for all with the exception of 1033. I have to abstain on that as a board of director for the hospital, Christ Hospital, not the corporate structure, but also happy birthday to Sean Gallagher. His birthday is on Christmas Day. So we'll sing him happy birthday at the end of this so we get payback.
Oh, I opened myself up. Councilperson Solomon.
Sure. Vote aye for all, and then just briefly on 1033, thank you to HPAE for coming out in support of the resolution, and thank you to Council President and the colleagues for working on it in a short time frame, just given the last meeting before January. And we just recognize, and HPAE was here about a year ago, and I think all of us talked about the importance of nurses and healthcare workers. And so many of them are Jersey City residents, and all we're simply asking for is that the union be recognized and that the contract be recognized. Those aren't, I think, very basic values, and ensuring that the working folks in Jersey City get what they deserve. So happy to have the council put on the record what we're asking HRH to do, and hope it helps HPAE in their efforts. And so with that, I vote aye for all.
Thank you. Councilperson Gilmore.
Aye.
Councilperson DeGise.
Aye.
And Council President Waterman. Okay, if I can just recap, items 10.26 through 10.33 are approved 8-0 with Councilperson Rivera absent. Item 10.33 is approved 7-0-1. Councilperson Saleh abstaining and Councilperson Rivera absent. And item 10.34 is approved 8-0 with Councilperson Rivera absent.
Well, Sean, I just have a quick crew questions. I don't know for either John or one of the Johns, legal or the BA, as it relates to the uniform security code in the building. I mean, I've been down there and I haven't seen them. What if anything should tenants too? Should the office be going by monitoring it? Like, what if anything we should do as
There was a violation issued. If we want to issue daily fines, there needs to be a daily inspection.
a daily inspection?
Yeah, so Councilman, from the administrator's perspective, what we're going to do is take a look at revamping operations to dedicate staffing to that, because we don't want selective enforcement. So we will look at numerous locations that it applies to.
All in one. So
Yeah, we don't want to just target one, but it is something that is on the books and we have to administer.
yes, because we have several buildings that's having issues with that.
And if BA, if you could just update the council on those efforts for the comprehensive enforcement, that would be.
Yeah, before the next council meeting, absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to everyone. Enjoy your family. Motion.
Motion to sing happy birthday to Sean Gallagher.
I vote no.
Oh, can't you feel the love? All right, may we have a motion to adjourn at 8:37 PM?
Motion.
Second.
I want to say happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy
Birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Sean. Happy birthday to you.
Thanks so much for
It's on
that.
Christmas.
So the
Yeah.
motion to adjourn was made by Councilperson Gilmore, seconded by Councilperson Saleh. On the motion to adjourn at 8:37 PM, might have been 8:38 now since she sang happy birthday to me. By acclamation, all council members present, please say aye.
Aye.
We are out of here at 8:37 PM. Thank you so much, everyone in attendance, everyone watching at home. Remember, teamwork makes the dream work. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays to everybody, and stay safe. Have a great night.